Welcome, everybody. I'm Chuck Harris with the Texas Exes. It's great to have everybody online today. This is our first ever Texas Exes Business Network event. So thank you all for signing up and joining. I'll give you a little bit of background on the Business Network. This is an initiative that we really started during the pandemic, and it's focused on highlighting Longhorn run and operated business. There's really three pieces to it. Our first task, obviously, is identifying all of our Longhorn run businesses. And then once we've identified y'all, our goal is to promote you to our 540,000 alumni. And so this is all about how do Longhorns help other Longhorns. We also are interested in facilitating network between our business owners and creating a unique set of assets for members in the network. So again, as I said, this is our first event. So I hope you enjoy it. We've got a great audience today where you're all joining, and we've got a great panel. So I'm thrilled to see you all today. Because of all of this, I hope we can all do better together and help each other thrive. Today's webinar is about how to use social media to grow your business. We picked a use case that's all the rave today, NCAA's new name, image, and likeness policy, also known as NIL. It's turned into a real game changer for businesses and college athletes. The opportunity is huge, and we want to make it so that you guys can make the most of it. You're going to hear from industry experts about how to grow your brand, reach new customers, and support our wonderful UT student athletes as well. I think you'll find taking advantage of the policy is easier and more affordable than you might think. And to kick things off, I'm going to pass it over to a woman who is famously humble. So much so that it takes a while when you first meet her to realize that she is a huge, epic player in marketing, branding, PR, and events. Her firm knows and reps almost everyone who is anyone in Austin and beyond. Her company, Giant Noise, is a full-service PR firm that handles hospitality, food and beverage, entertainment, and lifestyle brands, spanning local businesses to Fortune 500 companies, including names like Pepsi, Lipton, Lone Star Beer, the Texas Book Festival, Circuit of the Americas, my favorite burger stand, Hat Creek Burger Company, and the new Moody Center here in Austin. We're very fortunate to have her as a member of the Texas Exes Board of Directors. She has generously offered to share her wisdom with us today. You're all in great hands. Please welcome Elaine Garza. Elaine?
Hi, everybody. It's so nice to meet you all. So I am going to jump right in to kind of explain a little bit about working with influencers and working with how you as a company, or how we work with, and influencers can be people that are self-described influencers, or they can be people of influence. And that's really important distinction, because I think that how you work with each is very different. And we can just jump right into the next slide. But the one thing I really want to do is I want to introduce my team here, the group that's all together. And we have Nick Shuley, who is the founder of Clarkfield Collective. I think everybody here will also know Derrick Johnson. He obviously is former Longhorn, Kansas City Chiefs, and he's the founder of Defend the Dream Foundation. And then we also have Juliann Faucette Johnson, who is a Texas X Life member, former Texas volleyball player, 2020 UT Hall of Fame inductee, 3-time All-American, Big 12 player of the year, and she's here. And so I'm going to go through all of these things, and I'm hoping that our esteemed panelists will also jump in if they have things to add as we move through this next hour. But so basically, what's an influencer? An influencer is anyone that has the power to affect purchasing decisions. And so, the way, and you've all seen this, I'm sure, if you're on social media, they've built their platforms, and these are people that have worked very hard. You're either famous already, or you've become famous by, again, a self-proclaimed influencer, and somebody that is telling you design trends or knows about restaurants. Those are people that we work with at Giant Noise all the time. So Instagram dominates by far influencers and how brands work with influencers. TikTok's really coming up as a close second. And I think if you're not on TikTok or not familiar, it's certainly, as a business owner, something worth your time, because I can give an example. I don't work with them, but Bobbi Brown, who had the makeup line Bobbi Brown, she started a new line. She's probably 55, called Jones Road. And she went to TikTok to launch her brand, and it's exploded. I mean, it's one of those things where by her being present on TikTok with that audience, I think, you think about TikTok as being something that is your kids doing dances, and it's not like that anymore. This is where brands kind of go to, and work with influencers and work with, different people to kind of get what they're doing out there. They're more ad friendly for them. People definitely use, and I think Nick can jump in at some point, I think a lot of athletes are on YouTube, media use Twitter. And then when we talk about people of influence, I think it's appropriate to what we're saying, because I think athletes are people of influence more so than, they've established themselves, they've created something separate from that. So they have a fan base that is influential. This one, one of the things to just jump right in is like, it doesn't always matter when some brands are like, I need to have 1 million followers, or I need 500,000 followers. Sometimes that's great, but sometimes it's not, because they're selling. You want to be really careful about that. And so you can have influencers that are 5,000 to 10,000 people, but people really want to, and I think, again, athletes can fall into this category because the fans that are watching them want to buy what they're talking about and believe that what they're saying is something that they're not being sold to. And I think that's what's really important. It's like, you want to have that authentic piece of it where you don't feel like you're being sold to. When you're working with an influencer or brand, we always look for what's the content, what's their niche, what is their engagement rate, who are their followers. And I think engagement rate's also really important, because you will have people that have really high numbers. And we've done partnerships with, like, we did the PR for Camp Gladiator, and we'd work with influencers, but then nothing returned over. There was no engagement. So you want to be really careful about monitoring that too. Like, is that person you're working with actually reaching the people that are in their audience, or do they just have really high numbers? Because it's very different. We can go to the next slide. So why influencers, and like, why do brands and companies, why do we want to work with them? Brands are projected to spend $15 billion on influencer marketing in 2022, which is crazy, because if you think about what that was 5 years ago, it doesn't even compare. But I know, again, we are working with Pepsi, we are working with Lipton, we work with these brands, and where 5 years ago, I can say more like hospitality, they're like, we don't want influencers, we're not working with it. Now they're like, what's the influencer plan? What is that strategy? So it has become part of our day-to-day, branding life. It's no longer something that there's a lot of education, which, again, I think with NIL, it's so new, but I think athletes are able to walk right into an existing platform that already brands are very excited about. Influencer partnerships can be leveraged in a number of ways, like resharing obviously is very building trust. Being tagged is obviously really important, increasing brand awareness, boosting influencer content, allow the post to be seen by a broader audience, and maximizing impressions. All of these things, again, like, we just launched an event that's going to be at the Wildflower Center. And part of, again, our strategy is like, you're going to do traditional PR, you're going to do traditional marketing, but all of these pieces actually fall into that as well. When you want everyone to be like, I'm seeing this everywhere, because you have to have all of these pieces. And that's why when you're thinking about how you're promoting your business, having this as part of your strategy is really important. All right, next slide. How influencers make money. So this is something, again, if we want to, connect it back to athletes, in order to earn commission on so there's several ways, like you can earn a commission on items shared. There's also brands set up shop links where it's just like, there are a lot of influencers right now where they're working with a brand and they have a direct link into what they're selling. So they can get a percentage of what they posted, what that sells. So those are two of the things. And then there's also obviously brand deals, paid content for posts, and so depends on what the brand is. There are some things, some also will, some will also just take trade for different things. And Nick will get into that a little bit more, but depending on what it is, I sometimes prefer paid only because I think that you can, there's a contract. You can say, I'm going to agree with you that we're going to do this and you're going to do this, and here's how this works. And so that is one of the reasons. And again, it doesn't have to be always a lot of money. I mean, the range, I think, and I think it's in a couple slides, goes between, it can be, $500 to $100,000. It just depends, but it can be affordable depending on what that is. Influencers can co-create a line of products or brands, establish long-term partnerships. We see that with, especially like in design and fashion, those are things where they're partnering and people want, and so they'll push it. And this isn't influencers, but I've seen it because we rep Tiki Tatsuya, but they just partnered with Haller Brothers to do a collab, and it's just like, you think about those things, and I would bet Tiki's the influencer, like that's how they're working together. But so it's just, there's so many ways that you can engage here, that it's endless possibilities in the best possible way. All right, next.
Real quick, Elaine,
Yeah.
let me add something to this. When we're talking about influencers coming from an athlete's standpoint, a student athlete, I think they all want to be influencers because everybody's on social media, right? So I think this pushed the pressure. I don't think pressure is positive pressure for them to be a good person, right? To have good character, have a good attitude, treat people right. Because if you do all those things, this is available to you. If you're a jerk, if you're not a good person, if you get in trouble all the time, none of this is available to you. You're not gonna be able to influence others at the end of the day. So I think this is a lot of people give social media a bad name at times because it's taken over the world. But being a student athlete, this right here forces you to say, hey, you need to act right. You need to think before you act. You need to think before you say this. You need to, not in a sense of being fake or politically correct. It's just like, hey, do good, do good works at the end of the day, and all of this is available to you at the end of the day.
I mean, 100%. And think about your past posts and what you've done and how but yeah, I think, because I do think people of influence, athletes, have more opportunity than somebody that 5 years ago was just like, I'm really good at TikTok, so I'm gonna like get all, that's what brands really want to. And I think, Nick helped me, and I was speaking to a UT class, and one of the things was also like, they're asked to, maybe promote brands that they don't like or believe, and so I think it's also really important that for athletes to know they don't have to say yes to everything, and that it's important that it feels genuine. And I think the same thing for if as a business, you're hiring someone to help promote your business, you want to make sure they like you and they feel about that. And I think about that even with Giant Noise clients. It's like, I gotta love this, because I think that part is so important. So, thank you, Derrick. I think that's so true. And so affiliate links, like, I'm just going to kind of run through this, and we'll share obviously this presentation, but that is, again, like, that allows them to earn commissions. It's kind of what we talked about. I think we're on to the next slide, actually. Okay, so content trends. So these are just things, the rise of the short video, and that's where TikTok really is shown a lot of strength. The way that we consume content, short form video, it piques your interest. And I can say, again, from a PR standpoint, when we're launching something now, we almost always are like, what's the video to go with it? How do you and a video doesn't have to be, in fact, you don't want it to be highly edited. You don't want it to look really, it can be something you're really doing on your phone. And I thought, so that's super important. And again, I'm digressing from influencer a little bit, but like, we use TikTok to post something about positions where we were hiring at Giant Noise. And we were able to get more resumes that way than when we just posted anywhere. So again, video is really powerful right now. And I think it's something that everybody should kind of get more familiar with. Authentic content. This is what we were talking about. You want people, it has to make sense. It has to be something that's relatable. It has to be something that people are, the person that's posting it feels genuine and it doesn't feel forced. I think we've all looked at content when we feel like I'm not, like, that person's just collecting money and it doesn't matter. The dark post is an ad made with influencer content that appears in the feeds of only the select set of users and nowhere else. And that's common with brands that boost content. And again, I don't know about you, but I can tell you, I've bought a lot of things that I was clearly targeted for. So, there's some value in that. All right, next slide. So this is, again, unpaid partnerships, which I think in our universe, we like to focus on paid, but you do have unpaid partnerships, and this is identifying influencers that are part of your target. They're willing to kind of trade something you're giving them or post. It could be tickets, it could be hotel stays, it can be different things like that, gifting products. I mean, and again, that works with like high-end alcohol brands. That works, again, hotels. It's a great way to do like some kind of trade, sending lunch. I personally like know people of influence that I love to work with. And if I think they're going to love something, I'm going to say, call out Nick Shuley. Like there's a Bento Picnic, this restaurant in town I love. I was just like, I'm just going to start inviting people I love that I think have social media followings, that people listen to what they say because they only really post what they like. And I'm not even going to ask them to post. I'm just going to say, come meet me. And this is something that creates word of mouth, but also if it posts. So that's really, again, if you think as a business owner, that is something like inviting people that are doing interesting things to try what you're doing, or sending gifts, or people still love mail. Like when we send packages for different clients and products, people will open them up and show it on their social media. And so that's just a way to, to think about unpaid. Inviting influencers to pop-ups, inviting them to different experiences, because when they're posting it, again, it's that with everything we do, everyone's consuming media in so many different ways that you want it to be a moment where someone's like, I can't stop seeing this, and that's what the goal is with a lot of what we're doing, because just one-offs here and there don't necessarily, sometimes something blows up and goes viral, but I think the main goal is that you want people to be talking about what you have. Next one. And then paid partnerships, we kind of talked about. Again, this one's really helpful because you really have a lot more control, because it's a contract, it's an agreement, it's something that everybody can, how many posts, what those look like, what that engagement, there's reporting that goes along with it. So again, and I think this applies most with athletes, just making sure that you're working with someone that is kind of has your interests, you've set the boundaries, you've set what you want, what the expectations are, because I think both sides, it's important to be protected. Next slide. And so this is just for people to have a general knowledge of what influencers cost, what that looks like. And so basically micro, which is 5 to 50,000, 500, 2,000. Up to top tier, which is 20 to 100,000. We did a thing with JoJo for iFly, and those are when you're dealing with people very, very famous. And that's the other thing. Like if I had $1 for every time someone's like, let's send this to see if Matthew McConaughey will write it, will post about it. He's not posting like that. Like when you're dealing with people that are this at that level, Derrick, like when you're dealing with people that, it's almost insulting, I think, in some ways to say, hey, will you just post this? Do you want it? Like, this is a business. Like, these are things that people, this is what they do. And if I think also you want to make sure they really love it. Like that, again, goes back to, it's something that they're a fan of. Other costs are just like, again, travel, food, drink, hospitality, like we were saying. So those can be budgeted in. If you're not paying, that can be something, or even if you are paying. Next slide. I don't want to take too long. Expected results, these are just something where you want to make sure you're getting this. What's the engagement, their engagement? What's the brand awareness? How many likes, how many comments, what were the impressions? If it's promo code, what does that look like? And then monitoring your website traffic and sales, because there are, you want an ROI. So you want to see if you did this campaign with somebody, did your traffic spike? Did you get sales from this? Now, sometimes I think about it as like a branding opportunity to get your name out there, and it isn't always going to have an immediate ROI. But if it's something that you expect or a brand expects, that's really important to understand ahead of time as well. All right, next one. Okay, so the next one we can go through pretty quickly. This is, we did a campaign for Pepsi called Taste of Your Texas. And basically we picked some of like, the woman on top is one of, she's a pit master at Valentina's and a rodeo queen. And so to me, we worked with people, and Fat Tony, obviously, we worked with people that were people of influence. Now we paid them, there was a partnership. they posted. But again, like we wanted to find true Texas notable people that are doing really interesting things. And this campaign was, we can keep going through, was really successful. It got like, it's very hard for a brand to get actual press. But I think because we were highlighting people that maybe aren't going to be recognized, if we're doing amazing things, it helped us get press on top of the influencer program. We can keep going. So these are just like, and again, we can share this, so just how we show wins, how we show success. And we don't need to go into it, we can just go through. But just to give y'all an example of what that case study looked like, and I mean, what that program looked like and how we worked with it, what the, you know, what the highlights were, but it was considered a really successful campaign. All right, we can go all the way through. So, and then this, I'm going to turn it over to Nick Shuley to kind of jump into this, because Nick set this up, and this is with Butler Pitch and Putt and several, I think, UT athletes. And again, Nick is the founder of Clark Field Collective. Nick, do you just want to jump in?
That works for me. If you're ready.
I'm ready.
Well, yeah. So this is I'll kind of go through this, and then I'll explain a little bit of the history on the law and kind of what it is, as well as kind of how we operate, and then we'll get to the athletes who are the most impressive ones.
I know.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was joking. I was like, I'm the least interesting. We need to get to the stars.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this was something we set up with Butler Pitch and Putt, which if you aren't familiar, in Austin is a public pitch and putt course that's kind of located directly in the middle of the city. So we had a bunch of the athletes, football, basketball, volleyball, come out, promote it, kind of enjoy getting to play golf. A lot of the athletes, it was their first time playing golf, so there's some great highlights from that we'll eventually share. But it was fun, and it would for a place like Butler Pitch and Putt, it's a good opportunity not only for these kids to experience what Austin has and what Butler Pitch and Putt offers, but also for them, it's a good way, to promote to a younger audience, because it's something that's been around for a while. It's a kind of an old Austin thing, so it was really successful for them for getting kind of new eyes on this place. And then, is that the end of your deck, Elaine?
That's the end of my deck. We go right into you.
Oh yeah, and I'll kind of cruise through this. You can go to the next slide, and they introduced me already, so we could skip that part. So kind of the history on this thing, for those that don't know, name, image, and likeness is what NIL stands for. A lot of this stemmed from Ed O'Bannon, who was a basketball player at UCLA, and he saw his likeness on a video game years after he graduated that he wasn't getting paid for, and kind of took this issue to the courts and started getting some real momentum. This is a really quick history, as well as quick kind of synopsis of the rules, so please don't take any of this as gospel. Definitely do your homework on all of these things. There was eventually a U.S. Supreme Court ruling that was a unanimous ruling in favor of what basically came out of it was athletes have the ability to monetize their name, image, and likeness at the college level, and in some states the high school level now as well. So those laws went into effect July 1st. A lot of states put in rules, and they're governed by those rules, and that's governed by the state, but they're different everywhere. States adopted kind of whatever they thought was right. A lot of states didn't implement laws, and what we're seeing now is a lot of states are pulling these laws off the books. And so Alabama recently repealed their law, and I think we'll see what happens in the Texas session, but I think there will be some changes coming to the law as well. So it's definitely it's an ever-changing space, I think, is the best way to describe it, and it's very new, and it definitely keeps you on your toes. You can go to the next slide. And then, as far as kind of the rough of what it is in Texas, like I said, don't take this as gospel. Go research your state laws. There will provide some links that are official university links to a lot of this information, but just the quick synopsis of it is, in general, there has to be a quid pro quo. If you get something, you got to do something for that. That's really the basis of it. There's no inducement. You can't say, if you come here, you'll get this. If you do this, you'll get this. There's all of these rules within that. Nothing can be in Texas. Nothing can be team activity. So everything has to take place. I call it off ball, but it depends on the sport, obviously. There's no university participation in this, minus the compliance side, and that's mainly who I deal with most of the time on these, as well as the students. You can't use the university marks in Texas, so anything that is done on this has to be just the kids or the athletes, and not the official Texas marks. There are ways to negotiate that for your business if that's something you're interested in. Obviously, you go through the university on that side. You can't tie anything to a school. It can't say that as long as you're at this school, you'll get this kind of thing. That's not allowed. Nothing can be performance-based, no alcohol, tobacco, sex, ads, etc. And you can't do anything past their eligibility. Athletes can now have marketing agents as well. So, and then the university has a deal with a company called Open Doors. And so I actually have a deal as well with them. So the kids, it's Open Doors is an open marketplace for receiving, whether it's brand offers, sponsorships, a lot of ways for the athletes to monetize their name, image, and likeness, and they can be contacted through that platform, and they're kind of the official partner of I believe the university for that tool. So next. So Clarkfield Collective, what we are, we're a university adjacent NIL program for Texas athletes. We're not affiliated with the university. This was created by, I was working with one of the athletes at the school, and come to find out that they did all the headlines you read weren't the real reality of what was happening in college sports. There's so many athletes that weren't really making money, weren't receiving opportunities, didn't have a way to figure it out. And so that's kind of why Clarkfield was started. Collectives kind of become a bad word recently. We're not like a lot of those places. This is more a way to bring deals and facilitate deals for athletes with their name, image, and likeness, and to have a place where these athletes can go to, whether it's get help, get deals, any of those things. So we serve as a conduit for other programs and businesses within the NIL environment, and we're working on some things coming soon that I think will interest some of the people on this call, which are professional service assistants for a lot of the athletes at the school, whether that's CPA, legal advisory, et cetera. We don't want to provide that, but we want to help give a list or a place where athletes can go to get that. Contributors can give to specific sports. Obviously, brands can too. It's really up to you, whatever you want to do. And then we'll do everything to make sure everything stays compliant. And we also have a athlete advisory board who help out with a lot of what we do. And you guys will meet Juliann in a second, and she's definitely on that. And I'm gonna steal Derrick to be on it soon too. So you can go to the next. And then so how it works, there's a lot of there's this talk of for-profit versus nonprofit. We are Clarkfield is a LLC, so it is technically a for-profit, but only a name. We're not out there making money. We facilitate deals and pass through pretty much every dollar to the athletes. And I think there's, we've done a lot to research the national landscape, and I've talked to a lot of the other collectives, and we're still, working on the best ways to make this function. And I think there are the opportunities out there that are great for the nonprofit side. And I think Derrick will talk about that in a bit. And we did it this way. It was the fastest setup. And our goal was to get things going, get deals going, and to keep it as compliant as possible. And so a sample transaction, I think this will help people kind of understand how it works. A contributor or business brings a deal. We enter into a contract with that business or person, and then we enter everything into Open Doors, contact the athletes. The athletes are notified through Open Doors. They can accept the deal. At the moment I enter a deal, I have to move all the money into it to ensure that everything goes through, that all the athletes get paid. It's a great system. And at that moment, once the deal is submitted, it goes through to compliance. So compliance is copied on it. They have the ability to, we communicate a lot to ensure that all these deals are above board. The athlete completes their deal, uploads their proof. Somebody on our team approves it. And then the payment goes directly into their bank accounts, and then Open Doors handles all the, that kind of payment and et cetera on that. So that's just kind of a quick transaction that I think will help give a little bit better understanding. You can go to the next slide. And for us, we kind of phased this out. It originally started with private contributions, and then we had a lot of brand interest. So we've had a lot of brands come in, as well as, there will eventually be opportunities for just, individuals to get more involved as well. we're working on everything we can to keep this sustainable and build something that is lasting. And so, working with the nonprofit connection, working on some type of membership opportunities. And then I think this might interest some people on the call. We will be looking for a sponsorship brand sales position pretty soon, building an endowment type fund, et cetera, and working with former athletes to help participate in this. And once again, that'll be a good thing for Derrick and Juliann to talk about. You can go to the next slide. That's kind of the quick of it. This has my contact. I'm sure they can shoot it out if anybody has questions, what have you. Please feel free to contact me. And you can go to the next slide. Yeah, and that's it. Elaine, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Nick. So now we bring in Juliann and Derrick. And I guess we can kick off. I'd love, like each of you just to kind of catch everybody up on what you're up to now, what you're working on. You want to start with Derrick?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh man, this is very educational for myself. We're all still learning, really, at the end of the day. This is so new. But Derrick Johnson was here at University of Texas from 2001 to 2004. So a lot of people ask me, you won that national championship. I'm like, no, I was a year off. So I was in the NFL at that time, my rookie season. And then I played 14 years in the NFL, very blessed, fortunate. And then I, retired in 2019, and the Chiefs won the Super Bowl in 2019. So I'm a year off, every time, at the end of the day. But I'm a team building deal, I get everybody ready. But this is awesome. I've been very blessed over the years. I've been very blessed to be able to serve in my purpose, and that's giving back at the end of the day. Being a philanthropist, I have a nonprofit organization called Defend the Dream, and it caters to inner city kids through education at the end of the day. I did it in Kansas City, and just launched it here this year in Austin, trying to give back to the community. This is what I love to do, and what we do is we go into Title I schools, inner city schools, and we beautify, enhance, do like a library makeover, and in much needed areas. And I tell you what, the heart of the school is the library, and reading is the key to get the inner city kids, underprivileged kids, their reading levels to go way up, because there's a crazy stat that says if they're not on reading level after elementary school, it's a 50% chance that inner city schools, inner city kids will not finish high school. And that's a stat that hurts my heart. And being an inner city kid, growing up with a mom that's a school teacher for over 45 years. So that's near and dear to my heart. So that's what we're doing now. And these projects that we do, they're $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 projects. Did 15 in Kansas City, one in Waco, and now just about to open up one here in Oak Springs Elementary on the east side of Austin. But as far as the NIL rule, as far as aligning that, we partnered with Horns with Heart. Horns with Heart is a nonprofit organization that was built off of the NIL rule, and their goal is to let the student athletes be able to go out into the community and do community service, do charitable causes, and give back in that way. At the same time, of course, they're giving a little, give them a little cash for it, give them a little stipend for it. But at the same time, they're learning a lot too. For partnering with me, some things that they will be doing is reading books to kids, being able to go in there and paint, or fix up some furniture, or haul some books in, or do some things, play with the kids during an outreach program that I have for my Defend the Dream Foundation. And I think it's very important. I actually enjoyed this when I was in school. I didn't get any money for it at the end of the day, but it's not about that. This is a bigger concept. Now we're using the NIL rule. At the end of the day, Horns of Heart is, and they receive donations, obviously, because they're a nonprofit, but at the same time, to partner with them and to have these athletes come into these inner city kids, I mean, we're talking kids that are underprivileged, and to see these kids on TV and see these athletes on TV, students, athletes on TV, and them to come in real life, for them to actually talk to them and actually play around with them, read to them. I think it's a big, big opportunity. So it's a win-win on both sides of the spectrum. But NIL, man, it's there's some pitfalls here and there, some things you have to navigate through. But when it comes to being school friendly and doing the right thing, there's a lot of positive when it comes to NIL opportunities, man. And it's nobody really knows what's all going on. You know, we're all kind of learning at the same time, but it's exciting too. It's very exciting, and it's pretty cool that the young kids now, they get a chance to experience being a kind of a pro athlete. I mean, they have marketing agents. I mean, they have to grow up a little bit. They really do. But like I was saying earlier, it does forces them to be a better person, because nobody's giving somebody a deal that's, you know, that's getting in trouble, or just has a bad attitude, or just doesn't interact with fans, it doesn't connect and all that stuff. So if you don't have that personality or that goodness, that character in your heart to be good to people who look up to you, then this is not available to you.
Right. That's huge. Well, and I would think too, back to, you know, kind of how it works both ways, that when the athletes are coming and working with the kids, they're probably already also posting on their network. So it's something where it's also helping to promote what you're doing with these people, with these athletes, you know, that even if you're not asking them, I'm sure they're doing it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And at the same point, of course, it builds my brand, builds, when I say my brand, talking about giving back to inner city kids, but it builds their brand too. You know, they want to see people, they want people to see them in a better light. I mean, what better light? What better light in giving back? I mean, if you're not being a blessing to somebody else, I mean, it's hard to do better than that at the end of the day. So.
Right. Well, and I think nonprofits are really taking advantage also of this NILs and working with influencers in a way that I don't even think they, you know, had thought about, you know, several years ago. But we shouldn't say this is only brands that are paying money can take advantage of that. Juliann, what about you? I mean, obviously you're doing so many things, but we would love to hear like everything that you have going on.
Yeah, so Juliann Faucette, now Johnson. I played in 07 to 11, and also like you, Derrick, missed a national championship, but that's okay. Like you said, you build up the structure and they go ahead and win it. So I went on and played pro for 10 years. I played overseas in different countries like Italy, France, Japan, China, and spent a few years away from home. So unfortunately, volleyball is not as big in America as some of the other sports. And so we're getting there. We're starting to work on different pro leagues now that I'm done, but it's really cool to see. But most of my time playing pro has been overseas and away from home. And I recently stopped and retired in 2020. I had a son, and I'm now currently coaching here in Austin at St. Stephen's Episcopal School, where I program head the entire volleyball team program from the upper school down to the middle school. I also am the sports information director there and a diversity, equity, and inclusion coordinator. So quite a handful of different things that I do at the school, but it allows me to use different parts of my brain and skills that I've developed. And it's really a great place. And I'm glad to be back in Austin, working on some NIL deals. Again, like Derrick and Nick both stated, it's a very ever-changing space. So I'm learning a lot, and somehow got thrown into the whole thing just because of, you know, relationships and the care that I have for the volleyball program at Texas. I would like to call myself a Texas volleyball athlete advocate. Really, I'm advocating for them because I know that we didn't get the chance when I was playing, and I would have loved to see this happen for me and know how it would have helped me a lot. And so it's really cool that that's an opportunity. But what we're seeing is that, you know, it didn't take off right away like some of us thought it would for Texas volleyball. They're amazing. They're always ranked, top 5 every single year. They're beautiful, tall, they're models. They're literally models. So what brand or business wouldn't want to work with them? But it's not as simple as that. So really just being someone who's advocating for them, working on, making myself more established in that space where things are more legitimate, like LLCs and stuff like that, so that I can be that, marketing agent or go out and help connect brands to these athletes that ask for help and that trust me and know that I'm not in it for anything other than to help them out. So that's a little bit of what I'm doing.
Well, and I think, if y'all are okay, I think there's questions that people have that I'd love to just, whoever wants to jump in, if you're it seems intimidating if you're a business owner and you want to leverage, you want to work with these athletes, you want to do it. How does that process work? Like, what are the steps? Because it does seem that there are so many different avenues, but is there one uniform way that a business, if they wanted to connect with a female volleyball player, how does one go about doing that?
So that's a good question. I kind of, a couple months ago, I wanted to know that too, not that I was looking for people, but I was just trying to see how, because, you have the Bijans, you have certain people where, people are just, it's hard to, he's got him at his doorstep at the end of the day. But all the athletes on their social media page, they have a business email that they take inquiries from, and that's really, really helpful at the end of the day. If you really want to get in touch with somebody, and it's got to be it's a 2-part system, meaning if you want to get in touch with them, you're passionate about it, you can. They have a link on their if they're interested in NIL deals, but at the same time, if they want to do it too, on their end, they're going to see it. They're marketing people. Certain people are going to see it, and if they want to do it, they'll get back to you. And that's kind of the simple way that I know right now.
Yeah, and also, so there, like, the university has a great directory online. I believe it's under leverage, and I'm sure we can provide that link later. So there's any of the athletes that are interested, a lot of them have their contact info on there, so it's easy to go do that. We also help facilitate a lot of that. I don't sit there and tell people they have to go through us or anything like that, but it's more I think any business can approach any athlete. I just think it's a matter of, I think all the deals look a little bit different, but just as long as the compliance piece is on there, I think everything has to run through compliance at Texas. So every deal has to get approved. And I know that was one of the questions was, whose job is it to report it? I consider it both. The students legally have to disclose, and we obviously build all our contracts, et cetera, like with compliance by sending through them. And so I think that's the key is you can do it kind of however you want. You can go directly to them, but just make sure that you're checking all the right boxes on that, because the last thing we ever want is any of these athletes to be ineligible.
Hey, Elaine. Hey, we've got just if I'll drop a little bit in here, we've got a link on texasexes.org/LBN. Well, we've got a link there and some FAQs. Obviously, the FAQs change seemingly daily with the new information and the new rules and all that. But for anybody on the call, they can go to our website under Longhorn Business, or everybody knows how to get there, texasexes.org, but you can find it and there's a link there to get you to that leverage platform.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and Juliann and Derrick, as athletes that, that didn't have this opportunity to get access to this, like from your experience to now, what does this do for, how much does this kind of change their lives?
Yeah, I think it can be life-changing. As somebody that struggled financially throughout college and you can't get a job because you're pretty much full-time, you're going to class, and then you're spending majority of your time working out, training, or mandatory study hall. There's a limited time for any type of compensation. And we weren't even allowed to mention, any of these things that were like coming out of our mouth was like, oh, you're in compliance. You have to make sure that you're doing right. So I think it can be life-changing in the sense that, when students move off campus, you're paying your own rent. You get a little bit of stipend, or back then we got a little bit of stipend when we did move off. That doesn't really cover everything. You can pay your rent and maybe have to make a choice between getting groceries or using your Longhorn Bucks card, your Bevo Bucks card on campus. And then if that food isn't the healthiest or always the best. And so even stocking up in the Longhorn dining hall on things that we could take with us, during our lunch hour that we had. And so just things like that, getting a little bit of cash. I know in some talks that I've had with the girls recently about opportunities that are coming and the small amounts of cash that I've mentioned that could be possible, their eyes just light up. Walk-ons. A lot of the walk-ons are having to get jobs, and I don't know how they're doing that, but they're taking extra things on the side to make sure that they can pay for their college. And so things like that. And I know it's been mentioned that, followings don't always have to matter. So, the walk-ons that aren't necessarily seeing a lot of court time or field time, they're still just as valuable with that Texas jersey. They're on campus, they're influential. And so it's really cool. It opens up a lot of doors, I think, for these athletes. And I was just in the volleyball space. So I know for us, it seems like a really big deal because we're, a women's sport. Women's sports don't get as much love. And it can change a lot of the course of how we live our college years.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
I think for a business owner, it can be a very small, at $500 a month makes a huge difference. So I don't think it's this huge amount of money to support an athlete, but also it's so mutually beneficial in my mind. And I didn't.
Yeah, and I think I'd say it's not as it's not as like scary as that. I mean, a lot of the athletes, even on their open doors, you can see what they'll ask for $20-$50 a post. So it's not necessarily something that's not approachable either. So, and I think it very much depends on the athlete, but I think there's a lot of the the higher profile athletes, they're going to get a lot of deals. Those are the ones you're going to hear about. But I think that's the key is finding some of these other athletes, and that they're very excited to do these things. They deliver. They're great at interacting with businesses, people, whoever it is. And I think it's a really untapped market. I think it kind of just
And I'm thinking I'm not tapping into it enough at Giant North, frankly, to be honest.
You have my contact. I'm just kidding. But I think they have I think there's a lot of value here, and I think it's kind of just this really wide open market right now because they just kind of turned the faucet on and just left it on. And so I think a lot of that is getting kind of hammered out right now, but I think that it's a very approachable thing if you or your business want to do it. And I mean, all the way down to there's been people who want, athletes to show up at their kid's birthday party, these kind of things. And it's not impossible. So if it's something you're interested in, a lot of times the athletes are really excited because they're not, making the multi-million dollars that you see in every, article that comes out about this. Yeah.
Just to go back on Juliann talking about being broke in college. And I was, oh man, that's a deja vu moment. I'm like, oh man, I just remember it like it was yesterday. It's of course we got through it, with a lot of grit on and off the court, on and off the field. But it is a big deal that they're getting compensated now, that they're actually being able to handle money. I mean, and it forces, in a good way, it gets some positive pressure at the end of the day with being able to be intentional about shaking this person's hand, shaking that person's hand. Because, when I was in college, I was around a lot of big time business people that I lost touch with later on. Of course, I picked it up later on, but at that time, it wasn't any NIL deal. And all that stuff is, you receive money, that's a crime. You can't do it. So at that time, you just shake hands, kiss babies, and, go on about your business. Now it's like, hey, you shake a person's hand, and depending on how you represent yourself, how you talk, you know, how you come across your brand, you can get compensated for that. I think it's a big deal because we have a lot of student athletes that have a lot of value off the court, off the field, and they're taking advantage of it now. But this is awesome, man. I wish this was around when we were playing, but we're trying to steward them and mentor them to be better and handle it better at the end of the day. This is one thing when I was in college and when we were talking about not having money, I never, even though I was struggling really bad, I never wanted to call back to my mom and ask her, because I knew my mom was like, I don't have much, you know, she's doing what she could, you know, we wasn't, don't get me wrong. I wasn't, you know, she was on a teacher salary, but my mom didn't have, you know, $200-300 at a time or $500 at a time just to spare and give to me. No, like I had to go get it myself. But it's pros and cons to everything, right? It built a lot of character and motivated me to go to the next level. So it's a whole, you know, different world now. But I tell you what, man, this is these players are growing up earlier now. They're going to be more professional than we were when we were here.
I piggyback off that and just say that this new NIL space really can set an athlete up for life after their sport. Really having to learn, like you're having to turn in, you know, your IRS papers, and you're having to make sure that you're saving in order to pay that stuff back. And, you know, like you said, presenting yourself well as a professional. You're not just an athlete, you're now a business and have the capability of making partnerships on your own, which I think, as I didn't learn until I went and played pro, because I had to speak with brands myself to make those partnerships once I was a pro. And if I had this education and this opportunity, I think I would have been way further along in my pro career with sponsorships and different things like that. And so it's just really cool to see that, like you said it, they're going to mature faster and really understand how to, you know, live without their sport, which is a whole different ball game, Derrick. And you know that it's definitely a transfer of energy and a big transformation. So I think it's really cool that can be something that they learn now for when maybe their sport isn't there.
And potentially help their families on the other side, you know, like it can be something else, so if y'all are okay, we're going to open up. We have a couple questions from the audience. And one is Texas Tech announced this week that they are signing all football players, including walk-ons, to a 1-year contract for $25,000 each. If NIL is not supposed to be tied to performance, how is that legal?
Well, first off, not a lawyer, but the way that works basically is there will be things that there will be events, you know, posts, different things that money is quote tied to. So they'll have to do things to unlock that. And I believe that one's a nonprofit. I'm not positive, but so that they'll activate that through nonprofits, and that's when they can work with someone like, you know, Derrick, et cetera, to help unlock that money. And it was groundbreaking on their part. I think it's, you know, props to them. And I think, it's definitely not performance based though, especially because it's for every single person on the team. And I think that's kind of the way that they got, I won't say got around, but in essence.
Right. And so someone, just to really dumb it down, a nonprofit got all of this money and then they're able to commit it to these athletes.
Correct. I believe that it operates similarly to a collective, in a sense that they bring all this money in. It's under whatever their nonprofit is. I don't know what that is and what that's tied to, but then they'd execute that somehow, and that's how that would the athletes would get paid through that by performing those functions.
Okay. Another question is, what's the difference between the services that, let's say, Clark Field offers and an agent?
I think it can gray a little because it's a marketing agent in a sense. So we are bringing kids, marketing, I say kids, athletes, marketing deals. But it is, I'd say we're more of a conduit. I try to put bigger things together that involve teams, and, you know, kind of similar to what Tech did, but in some more nominal amounts. It's I try to kind of connect those opportunities, but we're in the same sense. If people call me and say, hey, I want to support this, and this, then we'll kind of make that happen. And so I think the agent obviously is just working for the individual. I don't work with any individual solely. Like I don't represent anyone on this. And so that's kind of the difference, I believe.
But Nick, doesn't each deal, even if somebody came to you and said, I want to support the volleyball team, for example, please do. But if they did 16 girls, great. Then wouldn't they all have to sign individual deals anyway? Or could they sign a team deal, or because they can't do that, right? Yeah.
You can't do anything with quote teams at all. It's all individual based. So I individually contact, each athlete in that situation.
Got it.
I guess the other question is, should athletes have an agent? Like, is that beneficial to them?
I am, and I'll let the athletes answer this, but I am all about it because it helps. There's, it's all the things that people didn't think through or did and just didn't, choose to do. It's having someone that can help you with money management, with deals, with all these different things. I am completely supportive of it. It also gives us a way to ensure that everything kind of is completed and happens on time, et cetera. And so, we work in tons of different situations and scenarios, but I always like when they have some, because it makes me feel better about that money going out there when someone's there to advise and help, hopefully on that end.
Yeah, I think, just what Nick was saying, I think they should have a marketing agent. You have to, it's too many deals and you have to discern what's good and what's bad. For these kids, that's a lot of pressure. And you have to have, and honestly, to get a good marketing agent, you need somebody, I don't know if Texas have this or other universities, but someone to check that agent, that marketing agent being, because I remember when I was going through my agency, it did a lot different at that time, but you need other people to check that person, to look that person up. So I'm sure the team has somebody to say, hey, Jonathan over here, he wants to represent me, my marketing NIL deals. Check out Jonathan for me. Like you need that, because there's so many, the agent business can be scammy at times. It's some bad apples, and that's in every category. That's in everything. You have some bad apples, but and some of them, seep through the cracks. But you need to have somebody to, I guess, sift out who's the good agents and who aren't so good.
Well, and I would think also an agent, if they have athletes that are making a lot of money, can also recommend athletes that maybe aren't as high profile, and so it can benefit on both sides. I'm just making this up.
That does help. That does help that marketing agent to get the other guy, because hey, I got this guy that's pretty good. He's making this, but at the same time, you have to do your homework on the agent. There are some good ones. There are really some good ones out here. I'm just saying, just always do your homework.
Yeah. Okay, we have one more question. Well, we have a couple more questions, but let's do one more because we're almost out of time. Do you all see a potential problem with booster alumni-run LLCs that start to reach a gray area between the university and the athlete's relationship? Who wants to take it? You're all smiling, so there's an answer.
Nick.
Well, can you ask that question again? I don't want to get it.
And just remember, this is being recorded.
Do you see a potential problem with the booster alumni-run LLCs that start to reach a gray area between the university and the athlete's relationship?
Not right now. I mean, could there be? I'm not sure. I mean, there are going to be some gray areas. There are going to be some times can't see the future like that, but there are going to be some, I don't know if it's 5, 10 years, I don't know, down the line, there are going to be some boundaries. There are going to be some things set up in place, because it's kind of open right now. It's good. The gate is kind of wide. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say to answer that, in a way that doesn't totally answer it, I think that the best thing to do is anything you're doing is just make sure you're working with the compliance side of the University of Texas, and that's going to help. Obviously, having a lawyer as well helps to make sure you're interpreting the state law correctly. There are, yes, there are gray areas, and there's gray areas in the law. There's all these things, and I think that just kind of do your homework, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is keeping the athletes eligible. I'd say, I think in all of this, and that's kind of how we operate is the best way to say that.
And I think as a business owner, you also want to make sure that you are aware of compliance and you're aware of all those things, to have a successful partnership with athletes. I think it's just as much a responsibility on the businesses, if not more than, as on the athletes. Well, thank you all. I learned so much. And I'm going to hand it back over to Chuck.
Oh, awesome. Well, and I'll just to sort of follow on to that thing is, if you use the link that we provided on the website, I believe it ensures that UT compliance eyes are on it. And so that's one, I guess, safeguard, for lack of a better term. But anyway, thank you all so much today. Hopefully everybody found this interesting, learned something. Hopefully you've discovered a way to promote your business. I want to thank Elaine, Nick, Derrick, and Juliann. Thank you so much. This is the essence of our business network. We've got 4 amazing alums who volunteered their time to help those of you that dialed in today and wanted to be part of this. And so this is what the business network is about, is bringing together the talented, the sort of passionate UT alums together to help each other. So if you don't do anything else today, please go and register your business on our website on the free listing. There's a listing under for business. This allows us to promote you to our alumni base. If you really enjoyed the day and want to help us fund future events like this, you can join as a member, which will unlock an enhanced set of benefits for you as a member. There's an annual fee with that, so that's a paid, but you can at a minimum join free through the listing. But again, hopefully we will reinvest. We're a nonprofit. Your membership fee is tax deductible. We're a nonprofit, so all of those annual fees get plowed back into this program to ultimately help you. So thanks again for coming today. I have a second meeting that we're going to do today that's simply feedback. This is our first event. I'd like to hear from anybody who has feedback on this event, other things you'd like to see, that sort of thing. So I think, Roxanne, are you going to drop that in the chat, or how are folks going to get access to that link for that meeting?
It is in the chat now.
Okay, so I'm going to hang up here. Again, thank you to our panel today. Awesome job. You guys rocked it. Your rewards will come now. So you didn't get the national championship, but hopefully this is a suitable replacement. You're helping all these businesses win in their respective industries.
Thank you.
Thank you again. It was great seeing everybody. And if those of you want to provide feedback, I'll see you on the link here in a minute or two. Take care, everybody. Welcome.
Bye, everyone.
Welcome.